Alright, what's going on, everybody? Illuminati in the house. No, I know the eye's not at the top, so you can be like, well, he might be Illuminati, but he's not the one at the top of the pyramid. And fair enough. I'm making my way up, though, bitches. Haha. Seriously, though, I want to try a little experiment. Depending on where you are in your magical, whatever. If you're doing your neophyte, then I don't want to sound like a prick and cocky bastard. Like, don't do this in your neophyte, but maybe in the earth grade or earth grade after that. No, that's not what I mean. But maybe just as an experiment for a couple of weeks or a month. Take on the Illuminati personification and characteristics. And I don't mean going around oppressing people, but I mean that you are all powerful, that your thoughts create reality. Take on that. Actually, believe that that's what's happening around you and that you can make things happen just by thinking certain ways and saying certain ways. But also take on the Illuminati, right? Maybe write on the candles that I'm a member of the Illuminati. I am an enlightened one. And this way, everybody hating on the Illuminati, you'll take their power and you'll be able to use it towards your manifestation. That's like money when it comes to magic, or it's what allows you to get money or anything you want. So, but yeah, all that to say that I gotta be honest, I'm pretty impressed with the rate of the people being reached on Facebook via my page, not necessarily my ceremonial witch and then last name craft personal page, but I mean my actual ceremonial witchcraft page. I just put on 1 to 12 of my first episodes of my podcast on there. It's the links to that. I haven't made a podcast in a long time, and that's my thing. I love doing the podcast, probably more than the video. Not for any particular reason, just that the podcast, I find the juices get flowing better. There's more time. There's just so much to think about. But be prepared for me starting to record more. Not necessarily maybe the podcast, but doing episodes and shit on YouTube and maybe Instagram and obviously maybe Facebook as well now. But just because, as you can probably tell from a lot of my videos, I record most of them in a car. Therefore, I brought... Anyways, I'm very tired right now, so I don't want to make this longer than it has to be. But the page, basically, it's one of those business pages, right? So it's basically saying I'm selling something. And I just want to clear that up and say I'm not necessarily selling something unless you want to buy something from me. But I'm not necessarily teaching. I put out teachings, I put out videos that I think people can use the information in a helpful way. But my information is designed for people already doing this stuff. It's not necessarily for a brand new practitioner to just watch my videos and become their own solitary practitioner and somehow become an adept. But what my information does do is I give you Liam Thomas Christopher's book. Okay, the title, I give you a vague outline of the things that I had to do, what I do within there, and how I do them. I've given the PDF on both the podcast and on YouTube and the description for that book free on your phone or wherever you want to download it on. But I'm gonna have to cut this off there short because my eyes are closing behind these glasses once again. But so if anybody wanted me to perform magic for them and manifest something for them, I don't think I would even do it right now because I'm not trying to do somebody else. I'm trying to do myself. So I'm not selling anything at the current moment. But everything is subject to change because it's the only variable we can predict with any. I just went over because I got cut off because of a phone call the first time, so then I hit the record again, and then I was saying I wouldn't do magic for somebody, and then it's just me like Hey, you can't see because the shades are on, and that's the reason. But like I fell asleep, just in the middle, and then I'm like, I come to and I look at the phone. I'm going to cut that out so you don't see it. But, you know, just if you notice that happens, or I start saying stuff that makes no sense, it's probably because I drifted off to sleep. But I just wanted to talk about the fact that, you know, people sell programs to help people and to help themselves at the same time. And, you know, there's this law of exchange, the law of law of, talked about it yesterday, compensation. Basically, nothing is just given. There always has to be an energy, an exchange of energy in some form. So basically, if you're buying teachings from someone like Frederick Xavier because you want to learn how to do specific money magic, or, you know, love magic, or whatever, if you buy something from him, he's going to teach you his method of how he did it. But within the method that he does it is where the real teaching is. So you can take word for word what he says, how he makes a sigil, what he does, what kind of pencil he uses, what kind of paper he uses, all the correspondences to the times, the planetary hours, all this stuff. And you're going to have his technique, and that's what you're basically paying for, is his technique. And, you know, all the time it took him to make that. But what I've done is, without buying any programs from any of these guys, I've filled in the blanks, all the stuff they said and all the things they didn't say, and all the things that I could, you know, whether it was an image I got in my head as he was saying it, or just somebody else gave similar stuff out for free, and, you know, I picked up on it. It doesn't matter. And maybe my techniques aren't the same techniques you would learn from one of these people, but they work. And the thing I notice is when I explain some of this to people, you know, whether it's somebody who's actively wanting to know about this, or it's somebody who's just trying to prove me wrong, what I notice is I get, let me word this right. Holy shit, I dozed off again. Anyways, the thing I notice is people don't believe what I say. This kind of plays into the whole thing. Free knowledge, free information is worth just that. You know, it's not worth anything because it's given for free, so people don't think it's accurate. Well, in the same sense, when it comes to magic and the things we do to either reprogram your mind, to talk to spirit, deity, to talk to the other side of the other half of your brain, to do divination, to do tarot, whatever we're doing, the techniques are subtle. The channeling, the spirits, the thoughts, the things that come in are subtle, and they gradually get easier and easier to pick up on and hear and follow and listen, but it's still always a very subtle thing. Alright, what's up? Okay, so, oh man, that was brutal. I'm not gonna delete it. I'm not gonna, I cut out the parts where I kept fucking crashing out, but I'm not gonna get rid of the whole thing, even though I'm fucking sound like I'm overtired, drunk on some kind of Xanax, or forget the family it's in, but benzos, on some kind of benzos, fucking zoning right out, or I'm on the nod from fucking too many opiates, which isn't the case because I don't do that, but I'm gonna keep that there because I was trying to get to something. And in all honesty, I was trying to make this as like a welcome fucking video on the fucking Facebook fucking page, but what a hell of a welcome, eh? So, but anyway, so I had about a 2-hour nap so far, and I had to bring my second oldest daughter, my third oldest child in total, but I'm gonna bring her to her friend's house. Her friend's mom works at a flower shop, and she brings her daughter to work with her to get her out of the house, which was fun for the daughter for a while. But now it's kind of repetitive, but it's still better than having the kid at home, or having to pay a babysitter, or whatever the case may be. So, you know, it's all good. And, you know, my daughter's allowed to go there and hang out with them, which is fucking awesome. I love it. I love that kind of shit. It's fucking sick that people are just doing things like this. It's amazing how people, you know, just... Anyways, so what I'm trying to get at, what I was trying to say was the things I learned, the things I picked up by trying to do this shit on my own, by my lonesome. The things that I got from Frater Xavier, because Frater, I'm telling you now, that Mystery School series, because you can say, okay, he's paying, you got to pay for his programs, and the shit he teaches on there is just really, it's all free info, but he doesn't really say anything, and that's not true. He tells you a whole lot, and once you actually do what he says, you read the book he tells you to do, and you do the fucking exercises in the book, and you do the depolarization techniques, and you do all the necessary work along with this, you're going to start, I mean, for me anyways, and a few other people that I know doing the same things, they're just like me. They pick up correspondences very simply. And picking up correspondences is amazing. It's really helpful in so many fucking ways. And the way that this has helped me out when it comes to learning occult knowledge from people who aren't saying specific occult knowledge is when they start drawing on something, when they start saying something that is, you know, related to or part of their magical system. Well, they start drawing on something, and then I get a message in my head, I get a vision in my head, and it's like a correspondence of what they're talking about in a different sense. So I get to learn how to do the magic without them actually saying how to do the magic. This is what I'm talking about, how you can pick up occult knowledge out of anything. The way you can just break down movies and how the occult symbolism is, and so on and so forth. The same thing happens when you're listening to somebody who their YouTube channel is primarily, and this is not what Frater or Birch is. They have a lot of good free information on there that gives you sigils, that gives you fucking spells. He does a whole honey jar fucking spell to get money. He teaches you how he did the healing magic and references the book. I mean, there's so much good shit on there. But the things that he may be vague about that you don't really understand, well, if you wait and you go back and you look at it later and you actually do the things he says to do, or the book he refers you to, then you're going to be able to pick up exactly what he's trying to get at. And that's why when people say the only source of knowledge you need is to be in touch with your internal source. This is what they mean when you start picking up that internal law of correspondences, and you start being able to pick up information out of the air, okay, that, you know, you wouldn't have got before, that other people don't get, you know, then this is the way you do magic. But in the same sense, at the same time, I don't even have to do that anymore. So if I feel like I'm stagnating, or I'm getting to a spot where, you know, I need to freshen shit up a little bit, and, you know, maybe I'm getting stale, maybe I'm getting bored, I don't know. But whatever the case may be, I'll watch the Mystery School playlist again, which is kind of what I'm doing now. But I do my own magic. I make up my own rituals, you know. I do the same basic things I started with, which is everything from, you know, recording down affirmations or hypnosis scripts on the fucking recorder and play them while I'm going to sleep. And when I first wake up on a loop, I do sigils that correspond with that. I take the statement of intent that I made a sigil out of, or I pulled all the consonants out of, and I put that on you know, a recorder, or I just write that multiple times in a book. I keep adding to my affirmations that I can listen to throughout the day. I write that same statement of intent on the fucking candle. I'm doing candle magic, and then I use that candle during my fucking ritual, you know. And, you know, I visualize, I use the fucking emotion. Anyways, there's so many things. I stack all that magic, all those little things I learned. But then, you know, when you add the reject, banish, deny thing throughout the day, when you're getting the thoughts that are going to try to pull that away from you or stop you from receiving that, well, you use that in with all that other shit I just said, then you're golden. You know, and if you're doing this, if you're going the self-hypnosis way with a recorder, or you put on the right frequency for it, put you in the theta state. But if you're doing magic, you want to be in the alpha state. You use frequency to your benefit. That's something I picked up from high percentage magic. So what I'm saying is, you can pick up the right information from all these people. And what I'm trying to promote and say here is that I've done this already. I've done this for you. Now, maybe these people won't work for you, and there's somebody else out there that work better for you. But nonetheless, what you'll find is when you do find somebody you resonate with more right now, because where you're at, there's somebody out there who you're at their level right now. Maybe it's me, maybe it's somebody else. And then eventually when you get above the level that they're teaching at, or you're just a little more advanced or whatever, then whatever you picked up from someone else is going to come back into play if you remember it or written it down or whatever, or you're going to come back to it and you'll be able to draw on it. So everybody's at a different level, but they're all little pieces. It's the same way that I believe religion all has a piece of spirituality, and you got to combine almost all of them together: the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. You got to combine them all together to get to spirituality. But everybody is different, so we shouldn't have the same way, same technique, or same spirituality. All right, so I don't know where I was leaving off, but the point I was trying to get at is I was trying to write a big. I was filling out the description part, redoing my description part, because someone left a comment stating that I made a mistake. I wrote instead of they. Receive results every time. So I scrapped the whole old comment and I wrote like a big comment that had, it was like 225 characters long, like letters in it. And that's what I thought I was allowed, but it was characters. 250 characters mean spaces, and I had 1,000. So I ended up putting a post just stating what my description I wanted it to be was. And I just put a small little vague one there in its place, but because like I said earlier, this is a page that's designed and set up as a business for selling something, right? But I'm not selling anything to anybody. What I do is I create content based on the practice that I've developed through mainly the curriculum from Kabbalah, the great work of self-transformation, and different spiritual practices that I call witchcraft, even if some of them don't consider themselves witchcraft. But it takes a specific thing. If a system's taking in energies that are like elementals or are similar and correspond to elemental energies or the energies in your body, and if it's trying to sway the mind, whether it actually uses deities to use it as symbolism for your subconscious mind, or it's using energies, or it's using planets, or it's just talking about how to get in contact with the subconscious mind. To me, that I consider magic, and I consider it, either I put it on the ceremonial magic, or any kind of magic really, and witchcraft is within there. Witchcraft I chop up to or put it in the classification of pagan style earth worship, earth elemental worship, using the earth, air, fire, and water and spirit, anything that takes thought forms into consideration, stuff like that. So I like the witchcraft. I feel a pull to the witchcraft. I explained this early on in my episodes that my grandmother was and called herself a witch, being the seventh sister of a seventh sister, which was a way back when, say, if all else failed and you had a family member that was sick or had an issue, well, if you went and saw the town weirdo, the shaman, the seventh sister, which was an old woman with lots of cats or whatever, these were superstitions. But if people believed in it back then, that these people could heal you, that these people had powers, and my grandmother was born with those kind of powers, and I was taught that as a kid. Now, am I a witch blood? I don't go around saying about blood witch or anything like that, but when I traced my family's heritage, I traced it all the way back to Dutch, France, England, there's a few places, but anyways, it's pretty old where my grandma comes from, and she was part of the witches that came to North America, who lived in harmony with the native reserves, but then Christopher Columbus followed them there, or maybe not even him, maybe somebody either prior or after him, but they followed the witches here to persecute them because they were fleeing persecution over there. And they lived with, I don't know if it was a decade or more or a little under, but they lived within harmony with the natives here. The natives had their own spiritual practices that weren't quite the same as theirs, but they both had a common respect for each other and agreed to disagree on the petty, futile details that didn't really matter. And overall, they basically had a belief in a higher power that controlled the elements that you can also get in contact with, because you can talk to the part of your body that also has control of the elements. Now, people in our day and age, I don't know if it's me and them or us getting it twisted or not, because I'm back and forth, right? Like, I go as far to say that we are a god, so to speak, that we are higher than the God in the Bible, that we are higher than the demons and the angels. That's why we can command them and they do what we say. But does that mean that, because if I banish the thought of rain, and I can postpone rain for 5 minutes, or I can get it to stop, and I've done this many times. Well, not many times, but at least 4. But I've only tried it 5 times, so that's good odds. But point is, if we have this ability to contact whatever's controlling our world, and we can do it successfully, does that mean that we're controlling it, or does that mean we have a link to whatever ultimately controls it? And I think it's both. I think they're not synonymous. I don't think they're both different. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's kind of both interlinked, and it's something that we can't really understand because with whatever technology we have to date, we can't really test such a thing. So, but we do have the ability to contact divinity, divine, higher things, the thought forms that the spirits that we call angels and demons. I truly believe that these are created things. Now, created things doesn't mean that they're any lesser spirits, that they can't harm you. It doesn't mean that at all. But you have to allow it to harm you. You have to do, like the thing I was talking about yesterday, when you agree by, when someone coerces you to agree, when you say, I understand, when a cop's just asking you if you understand, you normally think you're taught in school that it's polite to say, yes, you understand, acknowledge that you're wrong and shit like that. But if you're not actually in the wrong and you say, I understand, well, then basically what you're doing is admitting to something you didn't do, or admitting to something that, you shouldn't be admitting to. And it kind of plays into that whole thing. So if there's a demon and there's things on it, let's say you're scared of demons, so you don't get into magic, and then you finally decide to try this whole magic thing now, and then for some reason you start watching fear-based stuff that says, oh, it doesn't matter if you're not summoning demons. As soon as you make a sigil, whether it's somebody else's sigil that has nothing to do with demons, or a sigil you make to get money that has nothing to do with demons, as soon as you do that, a demon is going to affect you. And that gets in your head, and you understand that, which means you acknowledge that's real now, okay? Well, then you are going to bring in to your reality through yourself. You're doing this to yourself, no one else is. The person on the internet should have some of that karma, and this plays into the he who will be fooled, let him be fooled, or deceived, let him be deceived whole thing. He's deceiving you, so I don't think you're the one that fell for it. You agreed. So this is where karma, if you force something onto somebody, if you send something, a thought form to somebody, then you get the karma. But if you allow that person to create their own thought form because they're ignorant, then it's not on you. So don't go thinking that. But that's how this plays out. If coronavirus is a thought form, or even if it's a real virus, okay? If you allow that to affect you, then it can affect you. But if you don't allow it to affect you, if you reject every thought you get that you're going to have coronavirus, if you reject every thought you get that you're going to have cancer, and you say, no, my vibration is higher than cancer and I cannot be affected by cancer, well, then you won't be affected by cancer. That's how it works. I'm telling you right now. These things, your mind is powerful. And, if you're just saying those things and you're doing a bunch of things that are in line with someone who will get coronavirus, or in line with someone who would get cancer, well, then you need to put some action forth as well. at a certain point. You can't just be saying, I'm not going to get cancer, yet you're eating everything that is being shown to give you cancer. You are smoking, you are doing all these things, you're being around radiation constantly, wearing protective equipment. If you're doing everything in your power to get cancer, but you're only rejecting the thoughts, and well, then you might run into problems there, because you're going to be out of balance. You're not going to be balancing it right. You're not going to have the right action plus the right thoughts to be able to fight that. I think that's part of it, but don't quote me on that. But the point of all this is that the thought forms, the demons, the angels, these things, whether you think angels are good or bad, or demons are good or bad, they can't affect you unless you allow them to. And you can just use them simply to use them and be successful using them in a specific way. That doesn't make you have to, be subject to any kind of like justice or any fucking you over shit. I don't know what I meant to say by that, but I had a point. But anyways, I'm at work right now, and I'll finish this video on my break if I can. Enjoy. All right, what's going on, everybody? So it's definitely a new day. It's not my break time, but I gotta go get some potatoes and a few other things right now. So let's go for a ride, shall we? Notice how I got the car back, and now I'm starting to record more again. How awesome is that? But anyways, so a few things. What I was previously saying. When I was going to with the whole, my grandma's seventh sister, and I don't say I'm from witch blood, even though I believe wholeheartedly that my grandmother was a witch. And once again, that's just a term that human beings created to describe a type of person, and actually it was probably used to demonize women, and it was probably a good term at one point, maybe then turned to a bad term, and then now we're trying to reclaim that bitch again. That bitchy word, witchy. But nonetheless, point is, I have the belief that programming, thought forms. Your programming is a thought form. Affirmations are a type of thought form. Ritual magic is also could be considered as a thought form. But the point is, as a child, I heard stories about my grandmother, who was a witch, who was seventh sister of a seventh sister, who read tea leaves and healed people, and had to stop because magic was of the devil, according to the priests. I grew up with that, and I still believe that to this day. It'd be the equivalent if I still, at 34 years old, believed in Santa Claus. Well, he would be infallibly real to me. So I'm not saying my grandmother was a fake, like Santa Claus is fake, but what I'm saying is it's kind of similar. She's not a fake, but things that aren't real can be real to people because of programming. So I was programmed to be a witch because in my blood, I have the same blood as my grandmother. Now I'm not a seventh sister or seventh son of a seventh son or anything like that. But nonetheless, that runs in my veins, and I know that, and I know my experiences. I know what happened to me. But anyways, that's one thing I wanted to say. That's where I was going with that. Was about programming. You can be programmed to either believe in magic is real or not real, and what you see and feel and experience as a child comes to light. It's what your reality is made up of. But something else important I wanted to touch on as well before I get into some newer stuff about the yesterday stuff. When I was watching it, I saw something like, ooh, I gotta expand on that. Can't remember what the fuck it was. But what I just said about affirmations being a type of thought form, it's the reason you gotta do affirmations a lot, over and over and over again, for them to become real or workable or be put into you. Oh, sorry, there's fucking bad traffic here. But Frederick Xavier. Well, the first place I ever heard that was with Frederick Xavier. He said affirmations is like a thought form, or maybe if I find the clip after, I'll play that for you. But shit, something's open. My door's open. Fucking stupid. But he said affirmations is like a thought form, and thought forms are habits that we have deep inside of us that are automatically, right, that automatically play out for us, basically, is what a habit is. So it's something that automatically plays out within you. You've done it so often that it just automatically happens. And this is what thought forms are. And you can say, well, when I think of a thought form, I think of like some entity you create. Well, yeah, you can think of it as that way, and that's beneficial, but that's the human way to perceive what a thought form is. It doesn't make it any less real, but it doesn't mean it's exactly what it is either, you know? So that's something to really, really understand and get into your head at an early start, is that just because we or anybody, whether it's somebody a guru or somebody you think is full of shit, if they explain something, and everybody in between, if they explain something like, this is how it works, okay? Well, you can take their opinion and you can take their view and you can help conceptualize that, and you can alter it in your head a little bit if you like the idea, or you can shoot it out and, you know, just decide not to believe it and, you know, not think he's an idiot, or you can think he's an idiot but just keep it to yourself, or you can tell everybody he's an idiot. All of the above are up to you. They're all your choices. But what I'm trying to say is the thought form idea, like I have the similar idea that, you know, a thought form is some entity you create, you make, you know, you construct, you got to make a picture of it. It's got specific programming, you program it, and it's on the etheric plane. It's in the thought plane, wherever the thoughts are, wherever they exist, wherever they live. That's where that thing exists, where a bunch of thoughts are. Anything ever written down that makes it into our subconscious minds is also in that plane. So every fictional story, every real, every non-fiction and fiction story could have a bunch of fucking characters in that thought realm right now. But point is if you have a daily routine that you wake up, you get coffee, you do this, you do that, you can think of that as these entities that tell you what to do every morning, or just make your body automatically do it for you, that you don't even have to actually think about it anymore. It's like if you've been on skates since you were 4 years old, like I have, you get on that ice and you just know what to do. It's almost as if something takes over. It's this thought form that's created that embodies you. It's like, okay, I had to go play hockey today. Oh shit, okay. And then when you get that ice, you're like a whole different person. You know, the person that you're at home every day, and you know, you're surrounded by the same things that you're doing on a regular basis. So you have those thought forms around you that are playing out, but then all of a sudden you go somewhere where the programming from whenever you're 4 to 18 comes into play. And then you have to draw on that. And then once you are there, it takes over and you start playing. And sometimes you have this outstanding game. Sometimes you have not such an outstanding game. And the point is you never forgot how to skate. Yet you haven't been doing it. So it's a good way to look at it. All right. So earlier I was talking about my grandmother a little bit. I was trying to get somewhere and I couldn't remember. A little fucking tired again. I'm always tired. Fuck, whatever. But I was telling you a bit about our story now. I went over this in detail on my podcast, but for all those who may be watching me for, you know, first time, who don't really know much about me, I'll give you a brief outline. I kind of butchered it whenever I was doing that last episode, or earlier. What I was trying to get at was not it at all. But anyways, so when I looked at her last name was Godin. That was her maiden name. My grandfather's last name was obviously LeBlanc. That's where my LeBlanc comes from. Wow. Pink dress, baby. Wow. Anyways, women are crazy. How do they get in these clothes? But anyways, Godin comes from, I think it was Ireland, and then Scotland, and then they kept moving because they kept being persecuted. Now, I don't know if they were being persecuted in Ireland or Scotland, but my grandmother ended up in France, funnily enough, near the LeBlancs. And I guess both, this is something I just assumed, but it may not be accurate, because the LeBlancs also are in North America and near the prairies, the Maritimes, which is our provinces on the east, Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and PEI and all those fuckers. Those are the Maritimes. But anyways, and right below them is like where Salem, Massachusetts is. You keep going even lower, then it becomes fucking New Orleans, and there's lots of LeBlancs in New Orleans, and lots of witches in Salem, and so on and so forth. So the point is, I don't know if the LeBlancs were with the Godins whenever they came down, but Godin was my grandmother's maiden name, and that changed a few times. And I saw the original root word that it was prior to that, and I was following the family line. So basically, like I said, they came down to Canada, and they took a boat across. They got across the water, and they made it here. But then there was a search party sent out to go after them, and that search party came to Canada and began to oppress. Not only, they began to round up the witches. Now a lot of them hid, fled to the woods and all that, but the ones that thought they weren't going to be persecuted or thought that they were just going to bring them back to France, well, they ended up getting slaughtered. And I think there might have been a couple brought back to France, but they were, as far as I can tell, they were hung to or burned to show that, to make me an example of. And then they proceeded to live in harmony with all our natives who this is their home, and the white man that came was not their home. And they offer them, we all know the Pocahontas story, right? Offer them medicine and alcohol and all these things. Who knows if that's actually what exactly happened? But nonetheless, I know from the record, and if you go and look at some of the older native people who have YouTube accounts that talk about what their grandparents and their great-great-grandparents used to tell them, it was horrible. Basically, they had a rule that if you were a human being, you had to be a Roman Catholic at this time, right? And if you weren't a Roman Catholic, you weren't a human being. If you weren't a human being, well, you could be slaughtered like a fucking animal. That's what was happening on the east coast of Canada when my grandmother's people got found. France followed them there, or England, or both, and then proceeded to kill them. So the native people, they wanted their land, they wanted their secrets, they wanted their everything, but they didn't want to just kill them, okay? So they didn't just kill them. However, they made these fucked up rules, and that was part of those fucked up rules was that, you had to fucking be a Roman, if you wanted to be considered a human being, you had to be a fucking Roman Catholic. So they would test them. They would not give them the answers. They wouldn't give them the books, but they would have to say the Lord's Prayer or Hail Mary or prayers like that. And if they couldn't do that, well then, I don't know all the details, but they'd either get another chance or they would be whatever. I'm sure if it was a young, attractive woman, it would be some pretty nasty shit that would happen to her. And if it was anything else but that, then it would just be, you're dead, you're nothing, you're useless, you're a slave, whatever. And that's just terrible. You shouldn't be able to do that. So what happened was the people that had friends, because not all those friends people were bad. That's one thing people need to remember. These people were following the people that were in command because they didn't want to go against it, because going against it probably meant that if you're not with us, you're against us and we'll kill you. But within there, a lot of those people were nice. A lot of those people wanted to help. A lot of those people did everything in their power to not kill people, and they would help those people every chance they got so they wouldn't get murdered and filleted and chopped up and treated like savages, basically. So they would teach them the prayers, and then they would have to have a cross up in their house, and then they would post things up in their language that the French or English didn't know their language, but it would be the prayer, and that's how they would practice. They would get together when they were allowed to, and they would practice in this way. That's why we still have Native Americans today, because they were smart enough to outsmart the fuckers that came there to fucking kill all us witches and then all our Native Americans. I get along great with the natives. I've been beaten up by them before as a child, but I was a cocky, stupid little fucker as well. So whose fault is that? But point is, I have a connection with Native American people that I respect them. I'm not like most people around here. When I was growing up, there was a lot of racism towards the natives, towards the East Indians, towards a lot of things, you know, and I've never felt that way. I never understood it, to be honest. And I don't like being labeled if people are being labeled as that. It's like, I'm the furthest thing from that, you know. I would gladly probably pick Native Americans or natives and East Indians and, you know, anybody, any race, probably over than my race. Because like in my neighborhood, the people that walk by my house and look at me, look down on me like, oh, how come you have a house in my neighborhood? I've had to work 40 years to be here and I'm still working, and you have the same size house, but you had a bigger yard. How is that fucking possible? You think you're doing something legal? It's like, you know what? There's all those motherfuckers, they're all fucking white. They're all fucking white, middle to late age fucking white-haired men walking their fucking dogs who think they're king shit with a fucking beer gut. You know what I mean? Alright, what's going on, everybody? I'll leave that off. Hold on, just turn it down. There we go. A few things I want to say. I'm a little nervous about the whole Facebook thing because I don't want, personally, on a personal level, I don't give two fucks if anybody knows. I think I'm a witch, I'm a magical practitioner. I don't give two fucks about any of that. It won't matter. And my wife, with the whole Facebook thing, which we had in the past with girls claiming they slept with me when I didn't sleep with them. And it had all to do with getting drugs. I was using girls to get pain medication and flirting with them. I guess leading them on. Very nasty something to do to somebody, you know. But leading a girl on to get pain medication, and then she goes and tries to blackmail me with fake proof and whatever else. But, and I hope if she listens, you know, if she ever decides to watch my stuff, I am deeply sorry for what I did. It wasn't right. And, you know, I've gotten some karma back for that. Just understand that. But that's not what I'm worried about. It's about, you know, people noticing who I am on ceremonial witchcraft. Because my sister and my mom sent me a friend request because they saw that I was married to my wife. And I did that because it's to make my wife have a peace of mind. But nonetheless, when people know my sister, my mom, and my wife, then they know it's me. What the fuck is going on with Corey? But that doesn't bug me. I don't give a shit. If they ask me, I'll just dodge the question and I'll just say, you know, you really want to find out, watch my stuff. Otherwise, I'm not going to talk about it. But it's, if any kids ever find out that my parent might ever start teasing my kids because of it. Now, I think that's less likely to happen than people teasing me. I think people are more likely to make fun of me for what I believe in, but I don't give a shit. Most people can do whatever they do and make fun of me and then, you know, go home and have their mediocre, stupid life that they have no control over. But, so that worries me a bit. But anyways, so back to what we were talking about. Fuck, I always forget what the fuck that thing is I'm supposed to talk about. I remembered what I was supposed to talk about again, and now I can't fucking remember what it was. Son of a bitch, I keep doing that. I talked about the affirmation thing, I talked about the witch thing, there's something else that was important. I guess what I want to say is, and I guess it would depend on the practitioner, but there's a lot of people scared today. A lot of scary things happening. I guess COVID is starting to ramp up again. It's 30,000 in the States in one day, which hasn't been that high since whatever, because they're opening things up left, right, and center. There's riots apparently going on like crazy here in Canada. The police just killed a black schizophrenic man. I don't know if he was black or like Egyptian, but his pigment was darker. He was a human being nonetheless who forgotten to take his medication or hadn't been taking his medication. He had an episode. Paramedics were there and the police were there, probably the firemen too if they called 911. And then they proceeded to they discharge to minor kinds of weapons like the rubber balls and something else, and then they discharge the weapon and put them down. And the people that were there that were involved, that called the ambulance and not the police, they're up in roars. And I don't know if it's related or not, but according to the I forget where I saw it. A buddy told me about it at work and they showed me, but there's like a sovereign nation inside of fucking Toronto, where they're claiming it's their territory and it's not government and they're doing their own fucking thing there. And, that takes balls. And I got nothing but respect if people are actually doing that. People are actually doing that. I got nothing but respect for those people. I hope all is well, and I will do anything that I can, so that if I'm watching you guys and I hear authorities saying they're going to go do something to you, I'll make sure I reject that possibility out of my mind. So you got at least my mind power on your side. I don't think that's necessarily the solution, but I think it's in the right direction. So that's awesome. But what I foresee happening, and once again, this is going to be something I actively reject. But shit. Well, people are rioting, people are protesting, and they don't want to go in and do anything too harsh. The police are being sent there to handle it, and people are hating on the police. So the police are in a tough spot where they don't even want to go because they're being rioted over the police. So these people have nobody to send in. So who would you send in to stop riots if the police are brutalizing and hurting people and you don't want more bad press? Military. And whenever they authorize the military to go inside their own country, they have to declare martial law, because otherwise it's illegal. You can't take your own soldiers that taxpayers are in the street are paying for those soldiers to help so we can protect our nation, and they support those soldiers. You can't send those own soldiers that we've been paying taxes for and use them against you when you're demonstrating your right to protest. So it's a fucked up situation. But here's the kicker. This bullshit ramping up COVID crap. Everything's coming back, full flex, full force. 30 grand in one day in the States, And the girl, my phone died this morning, so I was listening to the radio, and that's how I heard all this stuff. But the girl even said on there, the same 120,000 to date of people died is still on track with what's been happening. So we haven't seen an increase in deaths, but we're seeing an increase in infected people. But scientists say it can happen, and it may happen that people will start dying more and will be above the norm. It's like, really? That's just like your best guess, or at the very worst, you're just saying that shit because you want to sway people to be scared. Fuck. Most people that are already scared from that wouldn't listen that long. They'd hear the 30 gram and they'd start tweeting, Facebooking, or whatever. They wouldn't even listen to the rest. But so what happens whenever there's a pandemic, and it's not going to kill anybody, or a very minimal amount of people, but then they get people to believe that it's going to kill people, and then they need to stop these riots from happening, and they can't. So what do? Well, they say that if you guys keep rioting, you're going to make the stats worse. So first they try fucking making them feel like shit, make them go home on their own accord. If that doesn't work, well, then they're going to send in force. And, when the military just showing up, a lot of people are going to piece the fuck out. And whoever's left will actually get the beatdowns. So, or worse. So, that's something I'm worried about right now. And I have to actively banish away, because I don't want that to happen to anybody. I like people protesting, standing up for what they believe in, as long as it's what they believe in and not just somebody else's beliefs that they've adopted onto themselves, because they don't know what they believe. That's the only thing that worries me. Anyways, I gotta go back to work, and as you can tell, my eyes are closing again, so I better get up before I fall asleep. Have a good one.